This conference will now be recorded.
So now I can't see you guys any longer. Wonderful. Marion, is there any comments in the chat? Please tell me because I can't see
Yep.
anything. But you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we will do short breaks and ask whether there are any questions whenever there's a specific, we have finished with a specific topic. So you do not necessarily need to wait until the end of the presentation to actually ask questions. My name is Ulrike, and I'm thank you, Destiny, for the introduction. I'm the CEO of Parson, which has its home base in Hamburg. And I brought my colleague Marion, although that was not announced, but I need her for the technical details of the plugin because she was one of the two persons from Parson involved in developing this plugin. And there's a third person involved because this plugin was actually developed by two parties. One was our company and the other one was Empolis. And Martin from Empolis, he's not here today, but he is the lead developer for this project. Okay, let's shortly introduce ourselves. The name of our company is Parson. We are technical communicators, information architects, and consultants. That means we write content, but we also introduce content management systems, content delivery platforms, new information architectures in case you want to move away from documents to topics. And we work on documentation pipelines and documentation frameworks, for example, for DITA, Markdown, or ASCII-Doc. Marion, do you want to say one or two words about you?
Yeah, well, I've been with Parson for 10 years, and for even a longer time, I've worked with DITA XML. I think I started to dabble with that in 2008. So I was already quite familiar with DITA when we came up with iiRDS and tried to connect the two.
Okay, what is iiRDS? And I'm sorry for the acronym, it's not the best thing to pronounce, but the standard is good. Let me give you a short introduction. The II stands for intelligent information, and it's all about the digital journey that a lot of companies are doing at the moment, going from documents to modular, semantically enriched information that can be delivered on all kinds of touch points like chatbots or content delivery portals, augmented reality environments. And it's also called smart content. And intelligent information or smart content has several characteristics. It's from a technical point of view, we are no longer talking about closed documents like a PDF, but we are talking about modular, format neutral information that is structured and machine readable. And machine readable not only refers to the content, but also to the metadata accompanying that content. Because it's format neutral and machine readable, it can be rendered on different end devices. And it's enriched with metadata, and that makes it easy to support users in different scenarios because the metadata describe what a specific piece of content is suited for which target group it applies, and other context information. And from a usage point of view, intelligent content can be integrated. So if it comes from different sources like marketing content, technical documentation content, product data, technical data, it can be assembled, aggregated, and then made available for in content delivery platforms or other apps. And where people or also other machines, which people or other machines can use to retrieve content, to filter content, and also dynamically assemble information products. So in 2016, we actually started this project, and the first version of iiRDS was released in 2018. The responsibility for the standard went from the tekom working group to tekom and then to the consortium, the iiRDS consortium, which has members from different branches of industry, from consulting companies like ours, from universities. So it's a mixture of different stakeholders that take care of the standard. It's an open source standard that you can use free of charge. We basically sketched it in or designed it in English as well. So all the documentation is in English because we wanted it to be an international standard. And it has two main components. It provides a vocabulary, or you could also say taxonomy, for technical documentation. So it gives you standardized metadata that you can use to tag your content. The vocabulary is defined as RDF, which is the standard of the semantic web. That's a framework for actually describing taxonomies and ontologies. And you can extend the vocabulary for your own purposes. You will hear more about that later. And the second main ingredient is a common package format, which can be processed by content delivery platforms or other applications. Using iiRDS makes it possible to deliver content from technical documentation or other sources in a standardized format with standardized metadata to different systems. And these systems can aggregate information from different manufacturers, for example, in a smart factory, or from different sources. So that's actually a format that helps exchange of data and information between systems and parties. iiRDS provides not only the format, but also some tools. We have an open toolkit, just like the DITA Open Toolkit, that helps you generating iiRDS packages. And we have a tool that validates, if you have a iiRDS package, you can validate that, and the validation tool gives you a statement about whether the package adheres to the standard. The iiRDS package format contains, it's actually a zip file. It has the ending iiRDS, but what it is technically is a zip file. And it contains content, and the folder structure for the content is completely your choice. You can deliver it in any folders that you want, and you can deliver actually any kind of content. You can put XML documents there, HTML, PDF, that it's not important. What is regulated is the folder and the contents of the metadata folder, which is called meta-inf, and which contains the metadata describing the content and referring to the content files as a RDF file. And Marion will show you an example of this. So iiRDS organizes metadata in groups. So we group metadata with the same properties like product metadata or information types. And these are metadata classes. For example, we have a class for the product lifecycle phase. And within these classes, you have objects or instances and these are the actual labels that you can use to annotate the content. So if you annotate a topic, for example, you form a relationship between the topic and the metadata item. For example, you can say that the topic refers to the disposal of the product, and disposal is an object of the class product lifecycle phase. iiRDS technically is an ontology, so it creates semantic statements about your content. For example, like this statement, a topic relates to a phase of the product lifecycle, which is the disposal. And each triple has always those three ingredients. It has a subject, which is a topic. It has a predicate, which is the relation, and it has a object, which is a disposal. And iiRDS standardizes not only the metadata classes, but also those relations. Let me give you a short overview, really short, of the iiRDS classes, just to give you an impression of what metadata you can find in iiRDS. And maybe one side note, if you present that, that doesn't mean that you actually need to use RDF or the delivery format, the zip. You can also use that as a blueprint for your metadata model. So iiRDS is a good choice when you have to set up a metadata model for smart content. Just use the classes that we have provided, because there's a lot of knowledge that's already in there in the metadata model. Okay, this is an overview, and I will start with the red element here. The central class for iiRDS is the information unit, and the information unit represents the piece of content and its metadata. And you can assign metadata to specific granularities of content. It can be a topic, can be a complete document, can be a fragment within a topic, and it can also be the whole package, of course, that you deliver. One of the main classes is the information type, and that this is metadata that describes, for example, a topic type like task, which you should be familiar with from DITA, or information subjects like this is a topic that contains technical data. The main class of product metadata, this contains product-specific metadata, and except for the product lifecycle phase, the other three classes, variant, component, and feature, are just connection points, because the product metadata is very company-specific. iiRDS can be extended, that's very easy, and it's part of the RDF framework, so that you can put in your own component names and your own product features in here. Then we have something called functional metadata, and there you can find metadata like qualification, which is up here, which is also like skill and role level that you also have in DITA, where you can say, okay, this content is for a experienced service technician, for example. And in the event class, you can have metadata for error messages or similar things, events, any kinds of events, and planning times you can use to store actually times related to tasks. And last but not least, we have the administrative metadata, which stores information about the status of the content itself, the party who released, reviewed, or withdrew the content, yes, and information like that for administration. iiRDS is not an authoring standard. No one actually needs to write the RDF that I just showed or explained. Usually iiRDS is generated by the component content management system or by a plugin like the one we are presenting today. It's not a presentation format. As I said, you can put in any content format that you like, HTML for instance, and then the receiving applications actually need to render this content. And it doesn't say about how you manage your content in the CCMS. It is a delivery format which is there in order to provide a standardized way of delivering smart content to downstream systems. Okay, and then over to my colleague. Are there any questions about iiRDS in general? Okay, if not, Marion, you can continue.
Hello, I had a question. This is Carolyn.
Yeah.
I was
Hi.
just wondering, how would we access iiRDS? Is it in the cloud, or is it a permissions based?
There will be information at the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So if we don't have more questions at this time, maybe also because this was all the theoretical setup that we need to understand what on earth this actually has to do with DITA. So that's why we're going into this now, to find out whether there is a relationship between DITA and iiRDS, and if yes, is that a good relationship? So let's continue to the next slide, please. So basically, we have talked about creating a plugin to create iiRDS packages for DITA for quite a long time. Actually, we had a first prototype, I think, in 2018 already, but that was just a showcase. And we did that because we wanted to evaluate whether DITA is a good match for iiRDS. Because for content delivery, which is the main use case of iiRDS, we need something like classification of content. We need taxonomies to be able to filter and search for content. So all in all, we need a consistent terminology in terms of metadata. We need information that is granular, that you can where you can select individual topics and don't have to scroll through documents. Content is generally chunked, so we place them on individual pages and don't have everything like in a scroll through document. We separate between different information types, and where we basically have structured content. So when we look at what DITA is, well, basically I assume that more or less everyone is a bit familiar with DITA. If not, DITA is the Darwin Information Type Architecture, and it's an XML standard to author technical documentation. We already said iiRDS is not for authoring, DITA is for authoring, and DITA offers us things like already predefined metadata, elements, and attributes. We have a mechanism to control metadata or taxonomy values using so-called subject schemes. We have granular information in terms of topics and maps. We have different topic types that represent different types of information. And then we can transform DITA to any other format that we want, provided we set up the transformation using the DITA Open Toolkit. So that's a good basis to start. And more specifically, to sum this up, DITA is a standardized and semantic XML format. We can do things like variants in there. We have mechanisms for reuse, and we have the meta information throughout the XML format. So it's not only in the specific metadata elements and attributes, but it's also in the semantic markups. When I have a topic of type task, I already know in terms of meta information that this is an instructional topic. And iiRDS, on the other hand, we have the delivery format. So something that we can use to put DITA content somewhere else. Now you might ask, why don't we just use XML, the DITA XML itself, as an exchange format? That's because iiRDS is just a standardized format in the middle that will be understood by most content delivery platforms and other using applications. So it's suitable for a lot of combinations of CCMSs or other authoring solutions that are based on DITA XML and then want to publish somewhere else through iiRDS. And using iiRDS, we can also integrate content from different source formats. So if we have a part of the content is in iiRDS, is in DITA XML, but another part of the content is coming from CCMS that is not DITA-based, or it's even coming from Word or something, and we have different pipelines for those that also create iiRDS packages. Or you might have a supplier that have their content in whatever format, and everything can be tied together then in the content delivery using iiRDS as a common denominator in the middle, as a common exchange format. Okay, and please continue. So this is what the process can actually look like when we talk about generating iiRDS from DITA. So on the left-hand side, you have your authoring, which is purely DITA, nothing changes. So you author your content in whatever environment you choose, may it be a CCMS or using just your XML editor with local files. You author your content and you classify your content maybe the same way that you do today. Or if you don't do it yet, you can still add some basic metadata based on information that is already available. Then in terms of publication, if you already use DITA, you might already have transformations to output formats such as PDF or HTML or generate web help. And you can just put on top add iiRDS package as an output format that you can then use to import your content into your content delivery solution. And so let's look more specifically at the authoring side. So the good news is when you want to do this, if something like this interests you and you already have DITA, nothing changes in terms of authoring. It doesn't have to change. You can use what is there and you can evaluate what is there. Even if you don't really have any specific metadata, you still have your maps and your content and your topic types, and you can just use that. And you can use your DITA even if it's customized. So if you have plain vanilla DITA out of the box, that's fine. But if you have DITA that uses specialized elements or specialized topic types, that's not a problem because they would also be processed by this plugin. So we're always talking about plugins. So this is an actual plugin for the DITA-OT. I apologize if some of the slides are quite technical. For those of you that are not so familiar with that, I hope that your takeaway is that there is a process that works and you don't really have to remember about the details. So anyway, there's a plugin, it has this name, which is org iiRDS DITA.package, and it hands over a new transformation type to the DITA-OT, which is called iiRDS. We already mentioned this was a cooperative development, which was done for tekom, but it was done by our two companies together. For those of you that are familiar with DITA-OT, we use DITA-OT 3.7.4, I think. So that's the minimum version that is required. We also tested higher versions, but we don't have give out any guarantees that it also works with 4.x or whatever, because DITA 3.7 is just a very stable version, and there were some technical details that made us choose that version. So what can we do with this plugin? We can transform complete DITA maps if we want to have, for instance, to transform complete guides like user guides, operation manuals, whatever. But we can also do individual topics if you, for whatever use case, you need to deliver individual topics only. And yeah, and it generates this iiRDS package in the standard version 1.2, and it includes HTML content. And we'll see a bit more what this HTML content looks like a bit later. So this is a very technical slide showing you the normally the default pipeline for HTML. And what we did was we just put iiRDS there somewhere in the middle in this pipeline. And to simplify this, we have this on this slide, just the relevant steps that we need for the iiRDS generation. So in the beginning, there's always common pre-processing. So this means the DITA-OT will take all DITA content and do something with it. So the result is still XML. It goes from one XML to another XML, and what it does is it resolves all the dependencies, like variables and cross-references and content references. And it also propagates metadata from DITA map to topics and so on. So that's just something that the DITA-OT always does, and we don't do anything to this processing. So when we generate the iiRDS metadata and get this famous RDF file, we use this pre-processed XML. So whatever is present in terms of metadata in that XML, we can evaluate. What is not in there, we don't generate. So it's just plainly we take what is offered. So what we do is we map semantic elements and metadata elements and attributes to iiRDS resources. Then also we need to generate some unique IDs. I will talk about this a bit later, why and how these IDs look like. And then the RDF file also contains something called a directory structure, which is basically a navigation map that will be used as a table of contents from the consuming system. Once we have that metadata, the transformation also generates the HTML files. And that is the basic HTML5 transformation that is offered, that comes with the DITA-OT. There's also no customization there. It's the same. The HTML is the same if you just generate HTML on its own or whether you use the iiRDS transformation. And in the end, the HTML and the metadata is combined and put into this zip archive with a file ending iiRDS. Okie doke. So a bit more details about the metadata, what kind of metadata can be extracted and how it is mapped. So we have, in DITA, we always have a DITA map that gives us the complete navigation and everything for our content. So this is mapped then to an iiRDS package and an iiRDS document. And because by default we don't have any document types as such in DITA, we just have DITA maps, but we don't have a metadata element saying, well, this is an operating instruction, this is a maintenance instruction, this is a technical data sheet or anything. So by default, we just use iiRDS operating instruction for everything. And customization would be required if you wanted something else. And then, as mentioned, we have this directory structure where every topic ref that we have in our DITA map becomes a directory node. Yeah, and I think I mentioned the other two, that metadata propagation and inheritance is already done, and that also applies to filtering. So if you process your DITA map with a filter saying, well, my DITA map actually covers, for instance, 4 different product variants, but I only want output for one of those, then you have a DITA val file that you can use to filter that. And this filter has already run through during pre-processing, so we create the metadata based on that filtered version if we want to. Also, we don't do any normalization. If you put some strange, if you have white space or whatever in your attribute values, it will still be there. Okie dokie, yes. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is the complete overview. It's also there if you want to look it up later on. You don't have to remember everything right now. So we have the topic types that we map to iiRDS topic types. If you have something like short descriptions in your content, then these can become an abstract element in iiRDS. A title is obviously mapped to a title element. We can mark up content for different languages. So if you have, for instance, DITA maps, translated DITA maps, you have different languages, but later on you still, and you will want to have one iiRDS package for each language, then you will know which language they belong to. And then the next ones are more interesting for later on than filtering and searching for content, because you can take prod names elements or product attributes that are mapped to product variants. And we can evaluate audience attributes and audience elements to get to role and skill level. Also component elements if they're available. And then some administrative metadata about when a topic was created or released and whether there are any copyright information in there. And lastly, for navigation, because sometimes headings in a final product are not proper topics, but they are just some titles. In the DITA map, we also have a topic head and a nav title that are mapped to directory nodes. So this was a lot of theory, and I'm afraid it doesn't get better on this slide, which is the last one before we might have time for a little demo. So unique identifiers. I'm not sure if you know all these abbreviations here. We have UUIDs, we have URIs, we have IRIs. So an IRI is basically a unique identifier in the internationalized form. So it stands for Internationalized Resource Identifier. Why did we put this here? It's quite technical, but what you need to understand is in terms of metadata, in DITA XML, you can have a topic that has fragments, or that has variants for 4 different products, for example, as explained. So that's the same topic in DITA. But in terms of iiRDS, it's 4 different things because it has different content. So what we do is we generate these unique identifiers for all the iiRDS resources. And depending on what they represent, they are either the same or they are different. So if I have the same topic in 4 different variants of my DITA map in iiRDS, if the content is exactly the same, then it will have the same ID. That will help a content delivery platform later on to actually understand, okay, this is the same kind of content, so I can allow users to switch between different versions or between different variants, for example. And to know that a topic in one language is still the same topic in the other language, that works if those topics have the same ID, because the content in that case, in that scenario, is completely different because it's been translated. So a hash of the content would be different. But we can use the topic ID to generate an iiRDS information object, which then allows the consuming system to understand, oh, okay, so this topic in this language is the same as this other topic in the other language because it has the same information object. Yeah. Okay, so this is just a screenshot, but I would prefer to show this to you live. I think we have the time, right, Ulrike?
Yes, we do. It's just 35
Okay.
minutes. So
hopefully by doing that, everything gets a bit more even more clear. So let me choose the right screen.
Just one moment. Destiny, do we have a hard stop, or can we extend the meeting if we would like to?
I think we can continue to extend it if we need to.
Okay, I was just checking because I know with Google Meet still it's a hard stop, and okay, thank you.
No,
Sorry about that.
That's not been my experience.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I start my demo now, and if you have questions in between regarding the specific content, then feel free to just chime in, or Ulrike will take a look at the comments now.
Yes.
So this is some demo content about a car, which is called an Austin Mini. Actually, there's different variants, but this one is the Austin Mini. It has nothing to do with any actual car that is also called a Mini, and is being produced, I think, nowadays by BMW, but that doesn't matter. So here we have the map in our XML view. This is what it looks like. We have a map, we have a title, and some map metadata. So, but looking at it this way is nicer. So in terms of metadata on this map, we have, for instance, we have an author, which is called Felicity Brand. We have a copyright information, which gives us a year, and also some information about actually the actual copyright that is attached to this year. Then we have some administrative metadata here, so we know when this DITA map was created and also when it was released. And then lastly, here we have some prod info in the element, a prod name element in the prod info section, which gives us the product name. So for this example, we didn't use attributes, we just used the metadata elements, but that's just because it's just a small showcase. It would work just the same. Or actually, I can also add it just so you can see what this looks like. So to this map, I will now add a product attribute. And actually, I'll just call it STC demo. So you can see it's a live demo. So I've added this to my complete map now. Okie doke. So this is the map. Within this map, I have just one demo topic that I also wanted to show you. It's about the locks of the door. And it's actually pretty stupid because it just explains you how you can lock the doors using a key. This topic, so it has a short description, and also again it has some metadata has a repetitioner of the author, which is the company in this case. It has separate copyright information. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just here for demo. What we have in addition to the DITA map is that this topic has component information, and so we know this topic describes a door. And also we have an audience, so we know this topic as an audience. The audience is a user, and the user's experience level, the required level, is a beginner. Okay, so now I'm satisfied. My DITA map looks good. I want to publish my DITA map into my CDP. So for this demo, it's a very manual process. So I have a DITA transformation. I've created a small batch file that contains my transformation, which you will also now see here. It's just a DITA command. We tell it, okay, this is the DITA map. Please process that and put it into this output folder. It doesn't do anything else, and it uses this trans type here, which is called iiRDS, and it takes just a minute or so. Now it's done. And in our output folder, this has just been generated, which you can see when you look at the timestamp in my German system. So this is our file .iiRDS. And I can now, because this is a zip file, even though the file ending is different, so oops, sorry for this demo, I can just go ahead and unpack the content into this folder. And as Ulrike explained, we have one folder for the content, which by default is called content, but you could also, it could be changed in the transformation. If we go in there, what we find is the basic HTML output, HTML5 output. It's quite ugly because it's pretty bare naked. It just has the HTML. There's no fancy CSS or anything in there, because in most scenarios we also don't need that, because the content delivery portal will take care of presenting this in a nice way, right? So we also have here, we have our index HTML, which already gives us the navigation. But this index HTML will later not be used anymore, because the navigation is also provided using the iiRDS, the RDF file. So that's HTML. Our door logs topic is also here. As usual in DITA, it doesn't actually have the metadata anymore, right? It just has the content, but we don't see all the fancy metadata that we attached in the XML. So for the metadata, we go into our other folder, which is called meta-inf, and we open this RDF file. And because this RDF file is also actually it's also XML based, we can read it in Oxygen, but as you can see, it's not there for humans to read. It looks quite convoluted. It looks a bit complicated. So I'm using this outline view to show you the basics. So at the top here, we have our iiRDS document. And if we open that, and I hope it's big enough, I changed my resolution, so I hope it's not too small. So our iiRDS document has the document type operating instructions. And as you can see here, it uses this, unique identifier here, which is usually a URL with a unique ID at the end. So in this default context, it's iiRDS, tekom.de, and iiRDS, and then it's operating instructions. So a reading application from that will know, okay, this is an operating instructions, and it's a default class provided by iiRDS, so it already knows what the proper label for that ID is to show to the user. So we have our document, and then we have our product variants, and there's actually two of those now because we added one. So if you remember, we have this one that was a prod name element. That's the Austin Mini one. And the other one that's actually coming from our product attribute that I just added, which is called STC demo. So right now, this package tells us that this content is actually related to two different product variants. What else do we have? We have the dates in here, like the release date and the date of creation that we had in the crit dates in the DITA XML. And we have our copyright information and our language information at this level. So that's our document node, and I'll just try to find the DOR topic, which is here. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. Actually, it's the first one. It's because the last time I did it, it was in a different order, but it doesn't actually mean doesn't mean anything. So the order of the iiRDS resources here has no meaning. Okay, so here's our topic. Again, it has its own identifier. We have our title, which is door logs. Again, we have the product variants, but now here we even have a separate one because in the topic it just says mini. And then it relates to a different product variant, and it just has this identifier because it's already identified up there in the topic, and we just link to it. So it's not fully repeated. And what it also does, it has a link to the actual content topic, to the HTML topic in the other folder. So we know from this metadata entry that this relates to the door logs HTML in the output folder. Then again, we have some more metadata, and this is actually part of this is inherited from the map, but that was done during the pre-processing. So one of those product variant entries that we have here should relate to the SDC demo one that we created just now. But in addition, we have our component down here, which is log, and we have our qualification, which I added, which is the user. That's the iiRDS role, and the what's the other one? I'm saying the order of things has no meaning.
And you have the other component, which is the door below the user.
Oh yeah, we have the door and the log, and but we also have the skill level is probably up there. Yeah. So we have the role down there and the skill level up here, but they belong together. Okay, so that's what metadata looks like in this RDF. And as you can see, you don't really want to read this. This is not for human consumption. It's purely for a consuming system. And in the end, the directory structure down here is also, it's just a list of nested entries that gives us a hierarchy of topics in the DITA map. I don't really want to delve in there too much because it's not very nice to read. It's a lot of siblings and children, so you understand what a chapter is and what topics in a chapter are if you are the consuming application. Okay, so before we have one last demo, which is not live because we don't currently have a live client, but we have a short video that shows us what this content then looks like in a content delivery system. But before we go in there, do you have questions regarding the DITA content and the transformation?
Yeah, there's one in the chat from Gaspar. So you map metadata declared in the DITA map and topics and converted to an RDF package with corresponding keys associated in iiRDS. Correct. How do you define the relationships between metadata as shown in the introduction, subject, predicate, object? The relation is, can you open one of those entries again, Marion, in the RDF? The relation, you can see that below the topic. So we have here a topic, something about the heater, and the topic is the subject. The iiRDS relates to product variant is the predicate, so the relation. And the object is the one that is just highlighted now and which has an identifier because the product variant is not written out here, but identified by the identifier. So there's your triple. Topic relates to product variant and the object is the identifier of the product variant. And the semantic application, like a knowledge graph, is able to read those relations and those triples.
Okay, I think the question might be related to how do you actually define the relation, what the relation is like, because here it relates to product variant. So the question is, why is it related to product variant and not, I don't know, has product variant or something? And that's
Because it's a
that's
standardized relation type. That's what you mean? Yeah.
yeah. So basically, iiRDS already defines a lot of these relations. So that's part of the standard and it's part of the specification, as Ulrike showed before. And in terms of this plugins, the implementation, it's actually hard coded into the plugin. So that's some Java classes that already know, because we have this set of metadata that we can process, and the relations are defined in there. We used to have a different variant of this plugin before, which was more complex, and where you were allowed to actually define those variants in a subject scheme. But in the end, it turned out to be more complicated and more overhead, because mostly you don't really want to change those relations, because either they're already defined by iiRDS, so there's no need to do that. And if you needed to do something really, really different and something really new, then you could still customize the plugin if you want, and you would already need to do some development work.
Also, what you need to understand is that the XML kind format that you see here is just one serialization format of iiRDS. It's a semantic package, and it's RDF, and you could also serialize it as Turtle, for example, or JSON LD, or any other RDF serialization formats that you want to have. It's just that tekom people usually are quite good at reading XML. That's why we chose it. Okay, there are no more questions, Marion, so you could switch back to...
Okay. So then we have a very short video. It's just 1 minute, I think. I have this overlay. There it is. So that's an example from a content delivery portal. Ulrike, can we say which one? Does it matter?
Yeah, it's Empoli Service Express, and they have a standard import, so they understand iiRDS both in the authoring and in the delivery. Yeah.
So basically, this was not done on the exact same content, but it's also the this mini use case is also in here. And as you can see in this is basically the search page coming from the content delivery portal. And as you can see here, there are some search facets, and that's what makes it interesting now with iiRDS, that the iiRDS package provides the content for these search facets. So if you can see up here, there's some product which is grouped into vehicle, which is where we would find our topic. And you can already see it's up here, but it has no audio, so we would just have to make the comments ourselves. So here he's just going through the different types of metadata. As you can see, again, we have document type, we have component, all of these things that we talked about before. So one way of accessing the topic is just going straight to this search result. And again, now you can see the HTML looks very nice because it's being styled by the CDP. And just quickly stop this. What is now in addition here on the right-hand side, this is coming from the iiRDS metadata. We can see which metadata is attached to this topic. So again, we have a product here, and we have the topic type, we have our components, and we have a language. But also on the left-hand side, we have the navigation for the complete manual.
Don't keep this up.
Oh, sorry.
Keep this up. So if you have a content delivery platform that actually reads the metadata and uses metadata to link content, you don't need to, for example, have relationship tables in DITA and actually manually link the content. You can also rely on the content delivery platform to link content that has the same metadata. So here, if you're talking about the door locks and door, you could ask the content delivery platforms, and some of them can do that, to show more topics related to the same component. So you find related content dynamically, which makes it much easier when it comes to different sources, when you have like Confluence pages and AsciiDoc and Markdown and DITA, and you still want to provide related links. Then you can calculate them based or assemble them based on the metadata.
Yeah. So in terms of these related links down here that are actually created using a relationship table, for instance, there could be linked semantically using the metadata based on the product lifecycle phase, which would be here, I just using the car or something. I mean, this is a fake example, but so we could evaluate the relationship belongings, so everything that relates to the same product lifecycle phase and is a concept or a task. Or actually, these are all the tasks that have something to do.
You replace this manually maintained list of related links or related topics with a query in the semantic database.
Okay, I start this up again. Now he's just going to some other topic, which has some other metadata. And I think what he wanted to show now is that if the list of results is too big and you don't actually find what you want, that's the beauty of the facets again. So now, because we're already looking for something about the doors, we know we don't just look at the whole content, but we want to actually find something about the door. So he filtered based on the component facet, and the only thing that remained was this topic about door locks, and so he got there again. And I think that's the end of the video, not the end of the presentation.
Shall I take then, or you continue, right?
I can continue. I just need to find the correct slide. Okay, that's not the run. So this is, you've seen now what the, sorry?
5 more minutes.
Yeah, I don't think we have many more slides, so that's fine. So you've now seen what the plugin works like out of the box, but you might ask yourself, okay, but what if I actually, for some other use case, I need to style my HTML5 output, I want to add my own CSS or want to use HTML5 parameters, then you can just do that. You can basically just use the same parameters that you would use for any HTML5 output. Also, you could maybe, because you have some special setup and you want to do some additional pre-processing step because you want to, I don't know, change the way that the metadata is propagated or whatever, then you could go in there and you would have some customization options. And then you can add more metadata. If you think that you have some, I don't know, hazard statements, for example, and you want to get metadata from those about security or safety related information, then you could customize the metadata extractor. Also, you might want to customize the way that those unique identifiers are generated, because, for instance, you want you want to have your company name in the URLs that are included there, or you don't want your identifiers to be language dependent because you want to kind of have a mapping in between because you want to have the same values across all languages. Then you could customize that. But you wouldn't need to have some knowledge of Java and do some extra programming for that. However, the sources are available. It's completely open source, as we already mentioned. So there's this landing page for iiRDS, which is called iiRDS.org. There you can find information about the plugin and the plugins themselves. There's also this DITA mechanism, which is called the DITA-OT plugin registry, where you can easily also download the plugin. And if you want to have the source code and modify the source code, then it's available on GitHub and can be downloaded from there. And I don't know, Ulrike, do you want to say a bit more about iiRDS.org, because this question also came up before, what else you can find there?
Yeah, there was a question on how to actually use iiRDS. If you register on the page, registration is required. You can download the RDF schemas for iiRDS, which are 3 schemas, but you can combine it in one RDF file if you want to. And then you can use a open source editor like Protege, for example, or if you're already working with a knowledge graph, you can just import the RDF into your knowledge graph tool and then use the vocabulary.
Yeah. And you can read the complete specification if you really want to understand what this metadata is and how it works, and there's detailed documentation available.
Yeah, we also put the sources on GitHub because, in order to make them available without any registration, you can simply, if you have a GitHub account, you can go there and download it.
Yeah, that's also it's the only place where you get the actual source code, because the iiRDS.org and the plugin registry only access the compiled version of the plugin.
And
Okay.
I think that's it. Yes.
So that's really, it's 1 minute,
50.
so that's great. So we have a lot of time for discussion if you have questions. Oh, everyone is
flooded with information. Yeah, some people had to leave. What was the inspiration for the plugin? It's actually, we always thought that DITA and iiRDS are a perfect match, because one standardizes the authoring and the other standardizes the metadata and the delivery. So, and we know that DITA is big in outside Europe or outside Germany, let's put it like that. And we always thought if we want to provide an iiRDS plugin for one of the XML authoring formats, it would be DITA, and that's why we did it. So if you want to use iiRDS, yeah, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome. If you want to use it and also use a delivery format, go and ask your CDP provider or content delivery platform provider whether they can integrate it. There are some platforms out there who already support it, but it should be easy because it's content and machine readable metadata to actually include it in the platform.
Yeah, and we are in talks with most of the DITA-based CCMSs and also content delivery platforms that support it. They are aware of those things that are going on, and they often don't have this great focus on this because if they're tailored towards the US market, then there's not yet such a great need, but it might arise over the next years. But if they're fully DITA compliant, it's easy for them to just integrate the plugin and to actually generate iiRDS content.
Yep. Okay, if you want to learn more about iiRDS, the consortium also offers and learning course, a training course, if you want to dive deep into the format. And of course, there will be talks at the TC World conferences throughout the year in Europe or in Germany, if you want to learn more about iiRDS implementations. We will distribute. We send the PDF of the slides to Destiny, and then however you distribute that in SCC, you will be able to get it or drop us an email. And we are both on LinkedIn. Contact us, and then we'll send you the PDF.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you to Destiny for organizing all that, and thank you for staying awake and asking questions. And have a great rest of the day. It's evening here, so we are going to leave now. Call it a day.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time, and especially when it's on the other side of the world, speaking with us about your offerings, and we're very grateful.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.